We already knew the economic crisis of the coronavirus pandemic was moving much faster than our economic data could keep up with. But the most recent jobs report, which was released today, underscores just how little we know about the current state of the job market at any given moment. In a surprise development, the government's data shows that 2.5 million more people were employed in May than in April. The unemployment rate, which had climbed to a stunning 14.7% in April, dropped to 13.3% in May. That's a huge shock, to put it mildly. Forecasters had predicted that the report would show nearly 1 in 5 Americans out of work and millions more jobs lost. Although experts told us that we'll have to wait for the next report to get a sense of where the economy is truly heading, it's clear that employment in some of the hardest-hit sectors started to recover last month. Almost 50% of the job gains for the entire economy were in the leisure and hospitality sector, which had cratered in March and April. This suggests that government efforts may have protected jobs, particularly through the Paycheck Protection Program (PPP), which allowed small businesses to receive forgivable loans if they spent the money on direct expenses like payroll, and that the first few weeks of states reopening allowed some workers to return to their jobs. But this report isn't all good news. Not only is a 13% unemployment rate extremely high by historical standards, for context, it hit a peak of 10% during the Great Recession, but also, the recovery doesn't seem to have arrived for all workers. The unemployment rate fell for both men and women, which is noteworthy because women experienced more job losses during the first few months of the pandemic. But the unemployment rate for black workers, and particularly black women, actually rose from April to May, further exacerbating the racial disparities in which workers are out of a job. The trends aren't as catastrophic as many expected, but the state of the labor market is still very grim. Even though the monthly jobs report is one of the most accurate and comprehensive sources of economic data we have, it's always a single snapshot of a moment in time, one that, in this case more than most, is rapidly disappearing in the rearview mirror. The May report is based on surveys of businesses and households from the middle of the month, before many states started to reopen and protests against police violence began to roil the country. So things could change even more in the next report, and it's more difficult to predict in which direction. This almost feels like a quantum report, in the sense that it's really hard to interpret this report without knowing the one after it, said Nick Bunker, the Director of Economic Research for North America at the Indeed Hiring Lab, a research institute connected to the job search site Indeed.